Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the seventh round of the GM Norm Round Robin here in New York. For this round, I'm playing against Denis Shmelov, whose name is spelled with an I in his last name and sometimes not with an I in his last name. So I'm not really sure which one is correct. Sometimes it's both. He's a strong IM from Ukraine and also Massachusetts. And he's on 2.5 out of 6, and I have 3.5 out of 6. And the video is called what it's called because before this game began, I knew that Denis played d4, and I knew that he didn't play e4, and I looked at his openings, and they are just unbelievably solid, like unbearably solid, like to the point that even against the Nimso Indian, which I thought about playing, he plays queen c2, which is just very solid, and I was really struggling to decide whether I wanted to go super dynamic, take us both into uncharted territory, risk it all, or just be like, screw it. He's going to play solidly, so I'll play like a main line, and, we could bust out like 15 to 20 moves of theory and make a draw. I was really struggling with this before the round. And I settled actually in the cab ride to the game that I was going to play the Queen's Gambit accepted because I was anticipating that he would play knight f3. Like, he would play knight f3. I really did not think he was going to play e4, and I saw him play knight f3 before. And then he played this, and there's a major difference here because on knight f3, black can still mess around, and I actually was going to play a6. So I was going to get a little bit quirky. I wasn't going to play the classical main line of the Queen's Gambit accepted. I've played the Queen's Gambit accepted before. The problem with this move, which I just completely forgot about in my preparation, and immediately I was like, not in my preparation, but in like the debating of what opening to play for this game, I was like, oh my god, e3 is so annoying. Because black has two choices. Either play e5 and go for an isolated pawn position for white, or just transpose back into, this mainline position with e6, a6, c5. I don't know that for both colors, so that's why I was going to play knight f3, a6. And immediately I was like, god damn it, why didn't I just play this? We could have had a super imbalanced game. So, with all my deliberation, we still get an isolated pawn position, and at this point, I already know what's about to happen. Traditionally, the main line is castles, but recently people have started to play queen to e2 check, which is it's just a scumbag move. It completely kills black's winning chances. Just dead in the water. Only white can win this game from now on. I'm sitting there like, oh, I hate myself. I hate chess. I hate everything. Like, at least if you play short castle by both sides, not right now, which is what happened, but at least with queens on the board, it's a game. The problem is that black is like a step behind white. And I've had this line before. I once had it against like a 21, 2200 rated player. Rookie won. I played bishop b4 in that game to attack his rook. Well, it's not the best move because you're going to have to give up this bishop at some point. And like, I know the main line is just to put the bishop back on the square. So in this game, I was like, I'm just going to play what people play, and I'm going to consolidate. And the way you consolidate here is you put this knight on b6, and then you normally put the f knight on d5. So it's like knight here, and pawn on c6. But he plays knight c3, and I'm like, how exactly do I do that? Because if I play knight d7, which I didn't do right now, I was like, I don't know if I want to give him my bishop. I think this is completely fine, but I mean, I just gave him the bishop pair. Now he has two of them, and I only have one. And this is probably fine. I mean, probably the weaknesses cancel out. Maybe I play bishop g4. I don't know. But I just couldn't figure this out. I'm sitting there thinking. I'm like, all right, but if I play c6, then he's going to play a bishop g5, knight d7, and what he's going to do now is going to move the bishop out of the way. Like, let's say he just plays a random move. Well, what I want here is, okay, let me just throw in this. I would go here, knight d5. Problems almost solved. If not knight d5 right away, bishop f5 first. But then I was like, there's a whole nother problem with all this. If I ever move this knight, he can just take on f6. I was just really unhappy with this transformation. I was like, he's going to go knight e4. And if I play bishop e7, he's gonna go here. And like, and you know, if I just try to keep dancing around, then he's gonna play knight h5. Who the hell guards this pawn? Like knight d7 back? Bro. Let's not do this. I'm like, I can't play knight b6. So I'm like, all right, I mean, should I go for a little a5? He's just gonna move his a pawn too. That doesn't help me at all. So I'm like, okay, I could throw in h6, but then he just goes here, and I don't even like the fact that he can like trade off my bishop. I just lose one of my most active pieces here. He controls the e file. His bishop is better than my bishop. See what I mean by really annoying? This line is super annoying for black. It's not that it's winning for white. A good player would be able to defend this. You know, Magnus would never lose this with black. But it depends against who. If Alpha Zero's with white, then probably he would lose. So I'm like, okay, you know what? H6 is kind of meaningless, so I'm just going to play rook e8. You know, we're going to take, and, you know, he's going to play rook e1. Oh, well, rook d1 or whatever. He's going to play rook e1. I'm going to play knight df6. A little ugly, but, you know, he can't come here. Great. Rook e8. He thinks for a little bit, and he goes here. A move that I did not even, like, it didn't even cross my mind, because my knight is still here. Why would he take? And then I'm like, holy shit. I just blundered like the most trivial tactic. He's just going to put his knight on g5. He's going to take both things and go here. I can't guard f7. I'm sitting there like, everything is going wrong. Everything is going wrong. Everything is going wrong. The whole opening selection, totally wrong. Totally forgot about e3. Just like only prepared for knight f3 or e4. I don't know why. I mean, he never played it in the database before e3. But I was just like, he's not going to, I don't know, he's going to play knight f3. So totally guessed wrong. Total incorrect guess on the opening. And now I have to just be a pawn down and hope to God I can hold an opposite colored bishop endgame. Like with the other pieces on the board. Very unhappy. Very, very unhappy. But you know what? If I endure suffering, maybe I can reach nirvana. So, king f8, and here I offer up my bishop. Bishops are better than knights, but not if you blunder a fork. He plays bishop back. I go here, and I play h6. My idea is I want to play knight f6. If I had just played knight f6, he would have snuck around, and I can resign right now. I mean, frankly, I wanted to resign on knight g5, but I couldn't do that. So, h6, knight f6, he comes here. At this point, I'm like, yo, what if I just play c5 right now? Right now. Now, if he goes forward, I don't really believe in this. I mean, I really wanted to play a6, b5. The problem is if I play a6, b5, c4, he plays a4. And if I, like, prepare b5, he just, like, shoves this forward. So that doesn't work. If I try to play rook d6 to come here, I even thought he could play a5. And something like, even as ugly as this, like, this pawn is just too strong. I mean, it's just too strong. So I was like, okay, I can't play c5 just yet, but what if I play a6? And he just played king g2, blitzed king g2, like, instantly. It's like, okay, now's my moment. I'm going to go c5. And then I'm sitting there like, God, because obviously, you know, this is my point, and now c4. But and by the way, the reason I like want to trade so bad is I'm pretty sure this is a drawn endgame. I mean, it's going to be a lot easier to hold this with no rooks on the board, but it's still, I mean, it's still going to be torture. And then he plays king g2. I'm like, does he even realize he has a really strong idea in this position? God damn it! He can play knight e2 because he wants his knight there. He reroutes to come forward. I noticed this right before playing c5. I was like, is that his point? And I really don't believe in g5. You never want to overextend in endgames. You just don't. Unless, like, you have to. I really don't want to do this. Because I'm like, I'm weakening myself too much. I can't stretch myself so thin. You know? I'm like, I can't go c5. Oh, my God. All right, new idea here. I have to go bishop b6. And then c5. That's all I got. So then he plays f4. He's just slowly improving his position, by the way. I mean, he's just slowly improving his position. I go here. I'm expecting knight e2. I'm ready to go c5. I'm expecting maybe like f5, knight f4, like really trying to get in here. My idea was going to be to play this and then bishop c7, which I thought was very clever, anticipating knight f4 and rook d7. Now b5, c4 is quick. So I was like, all right, I'm just in time. And then he went here. And I was like, what? This is the point. He wants the knight versus bishop endgame because that's not opposite colored bishops. And at that point, he has dominant light squared control. If he can win the fight on the light squares, my bishop is obsolete, which is why I want a knight versus his bishop, because the knight can play on both sides, right? Light squares, dark squares, or we get opposite colored bishops. So I'm like, okay, I can't take, and I also can't go bishop a5 because he has this really annoying move. And yeah, I mean, just so the point is that this. So if I take, I can't guard one of my pawns. Tragic. I move this one, but this one dies. Like, okay, not a problem. Rook d7. If he plays bishop here, there's bishop here. And he can't go back because boom. And now I'm going to go b5. And then as I'm thinking about bishop d4, I'm like, oh my god, he can just take. Oh, and if take, I'm pretty sure this is just losing because it's the knights on the board. I really didn't want to go for this because it's like, I just didn't think I was going to hold this. I mean, maybe I could have held it, but I wanted that imbalance, bishop versus knight. So I played rook e7. You know, he kind of just, you know, he's dancing around a little bit. I don't really know what he wants. I'm waiting for him to make the jump into my position. He plays g4, and now I'm like, oh, crap. He's trying to go g5. I have to go g5, or else he's just going to overrun me. I really don't want to do this because my pawn is going to be so weak, but he plays f5. And now I start thinking, okay, maybe I can keep my rook here long enough to infiltrate, and maybe we can create a fortress. Maybe we get a knight versus bishop fortress. I'm like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to pull this off, because if I just rush into it like this, he just takes, and this is not a fortress. Knight versus bishop is not a fortress. I need rooks. I need my rook to create threats. Why is this not a fortress? His king is too fast. King f2, king e7, king e3. Like, I'm going to run out of moves. A fortress is when you can shuffle back and forth and nothing happens. In this case, there is no shuffling back and forth and nothing happens. He will force a weakness out of me, like b5, for example, and I run out of moves if I just do nothing. He'll play like c4, take. Like you see, I'm slowly running out of moves. a5, a4, knight d7. I'm going to run out of moves. If you don't believe me yet, you'll start believing me at some point. I'm pretty sure he just infiltrates like with his king and the game's over. Although it's a little hard to see how, but I mean, you know, something like this. And if I walk too far, there's always checks, and the king has to choose which way to let the king infiltrate. Anyway, now that I've proved to myself and to you that it's a win, I was like, maybe if I wait long enough, he'll mess up. He gives me a check. He goes here, and I'm like, what about b5? At this point, I'm expecting this. And I was going to play rook d7 and just go all in. Like, force his king to the back rank, take on b2. You know, if he takes here, there's bishop c5. I mean, I don't know. I was just, the knight is hanging. There's pressure on stuff. Maybe I can somehow route my knight. I don't know. Then he shocked me. He played rook b7. I played this. I was like, what is he doing? Because he doesn't really want a rook trade if it doesn't come with the winning of my pawns. If I can get a position like this, I'm not so sure this is winning for white. I'm not so sure. So he plays rook b7. We both have about maybe like 12 minutes on the clock. And I go here, and my man gets shook. He gets shook. Like, he is just, he goes down to like 6 minutes. I have like 11. I'm like, did he mess up? You know, because he's like stressing me out because he's stressed out. I'm like, did he mess this up? I'm getting all of a sudden, after spending the last like 3 hours of this goddamn chess game, really upset. I mean, still clearly trying my best, but really upset. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe he messed up. And he plays rook b6. So I'm like, okay, take my pawn. Now I'm coming in with my own pawn. I'm not going for this. This is not what I want, because he wins my pawn here. I think he's a little too fast. So I play b4. He plays knight d1. Now I'm like, okay, I have a choice. I can play rook c2 first, then take. If I play rook c2, his king has to go to the back rank, but my bishop and my rook are really stupidly tied together. Maybe there's something like a blunder waiting to happen. So I'm like, okay, I don't understand. What if I just take? and then do this. It's the same thing, but the king is on g3, but it doesn't matter because it's a fortress, right? The A and the B pawn cancel each other out, right? And then he plays rook a7. And I'm like, oh my God, it's not a fortress. Because he has a way in. He has a way in. It looks like he has no way in. Pawn up doesn't matter. I do nothing. I go to trade my B pawn. That's my game plan. It's a fortress. He can't get in. He can keep attacking stuff, but he can't get in. His bishop can't get in. And I'm sitting there after rook a7 like, oh my God, he does have a way in. Can you find it? What is his way in? Now, naturally, both of these moves look fine. King f8 looks a little bit strange because there might be some moments rook h7 is possible, like if the knight ever gets somehow nudged, or has to like move to combat the bishop. So I think for a little bit, I go here, and this is where, you know, the move that I saw, bishop d1. And it's clear to me now that I'm going to lose this game. This is kind of the nail in the coffin. I was incorrect about the fortress. And once the bishop lands on b3, I can't even trade my b pawn. So I can give some checks, which is what I do. I try to prevent bishop b3, but he makes a beeline with his king, covers all the important squares, and reroutes the bishop to c4. And I resigned. Well, I played one more move here, and I resigned, but my knight is literally trapped. It's like crazy. Look at this. My knight is completely trapped. It can't go anywhere. And he just played bishop c4, and I resigned. And I was like, well, you know, yeah, that's like the cherry on the top, you know, of a really, really crappy game. Just a really crappy round. Just a game I had, like, no business winning, even enjoying at all. But it gets worse. And if you made it this far in the recap, you're about to feel my pain. Because when analyzing this game for the recap, it turns out that king f8 makes a draw. King f8 makes a draw. Why? Bishop d1. I thought it didn't matter. Bishop d1. And now not check, but rook b1. And if the bishop comes here, now check. And now the bishop is actually hit. So it can't be there. I needed to make sure this bishop didn't come to b3 with check. And with like 6-7 minutes on my clock, I missed my chance to draw the game. It's just a fortress. Like, there's nothing that can be done here. If I just sit and do nothing, it's a draw. Maybe there's some way that the engine will find to like mess around, but the point is, if you wait too long, I trade my b pawn. And if I trade my b pawn, then that's it. But I didn't play king f8. And I lost. And I'm sad. I'm actually, I don't even know. I'm like half sad, half mad. Just a really bad game. Just a really, really bad game. And yeah, like walk home in the cold type of bad game, you know. So yeah, but we got to bounce back for rounds 8 and 9. So I'll see you for those. Get out of here.